Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon from everywhere you are. I'm so happy. I'm Mohsen from Microsoft Zero to Hero. I'm so happy to be here with another great session from Microsoft Zero to Hero. Before kick off the session with a specific our guest, let me share some slide about the community and today's session. Actually, as you know, we are a part of Microsoft Learn community, and we have more than 7,000 members, experts, and Microsoft lover in our community. And today we have Emily. You want to talk about the Microsoft GenAI solution, actually. And as you know, again, we are part of Microsoft Learn community. Microsoft Learn community is central hub, a lot of learning content based off your career paths, based off the certification. You can learn and ask your question from Microsoft expert, and you can join from aka.ms Microsoft Learn community. And as you know, we are a specific monthly calendar from Microsoft Zero to Hero, a specific Woman in Tech in November. And we had a great session with Angelia, Namarta, Tina, and all of the sessions uploaded in our YouTube channel. And today we have Emily. And the next week, we will have Michelle in the Microsoft Zero to Hero. And the last slide is our code of conduct. Be aware of other, be friendly and passionate, be welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions and viewpoint, be understanding of difference, and be kind and considerate to other in the chat, in the question. And the time is at Emily on the stage. Hello, Emily.
Hello, thank you for having me, Monson.
Thank you again. And I know you are in the Chicago. How was about the Microsoft Ignite?
It's been a lot. I mean, the last sessions was less than 24 hours ago, and there was a lot of announcements, especially on AI. So I thought I'd try to bring some of the updates with me, but there was so much. So not everything is in there, but there is a lot of really great news when it comes to being compliant, not just with the EU AI Act, but all the different AI regulations around the world. So that's quite exciting. But it has been a very intense 5-6 days for me, also running different labs, teaching people to build a rag chat for retail in less than or about in an hour. So it's been intense. I met a lot of people, a lot of updates, a lot of news out there. Try to include some of it, but not everything is out online and something I can include. So I included a few photos for now.
Yeah, great, cool, very interesting. I follow up the session news. There are a lot of feature specific on the AI. It's a promo from Microsoft. It was great. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, and I
Okay.
think a lot on security and compliance.
Yeah.
So, like now, AI Studio has become AI Foundry. Forgive me if my slide somewhere says AI Studio still. And then there's become a much better integration between Microsoft Defender and also
Mhm.
PureView and AI Foundry, making it possible really to have that close knit collaboration between the security team, the compliance team sitting with sensitive
Yeah.
data, and then the people who are developing AI. So I think that's the most exciting. And I also caught up on that we would have some news coming in between 1 to 2 weeks after Ignite with even more tools similar to what I'm going to show today, but for specifically compliance with the EU AI Act. So I think life is going to get a lot easier for everybody out there developing AI solutions.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And with AI, and we will have an easy life, easy work, easy job. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, you can start your session. Stage is yours.
Thank you so much. So let's see here if I can just, should I just share my screen? That's the best.
Could you share your screen? I don't have in the backstage.
Let's see here. I think I'm going to go for the entire screen just because.
Yeah, go. I will add it
Yes.
on the stage. We have your screen.
Goody. So then I'm going to present the mode. How does that look for you?
Yeah, great.
And if you have any issues, any challenges along the way, please let me know. I have had one time that internet just stopped working without good reason. So, but I'm happy to be here to present to you how to ensure GenAI solutions are both responsible and compliant with EU AI Act and with some examples from Microsoft. And I tried to put in a few updates from Ignite, but Ignite ended less than 24 hours ago. So bear with me for not having everything in there, all the updates that's come this week. Now, I am a Microsoft MVP in AI. Originally, I started as a data platforms MVP. I'm also a Microsoft regional director, but my real day job is being the director of AI and automation at Hempel. And for those who don't know Hempel, then we do codings across the world. We have more than, I think, 8,000 employees today. We are in more than 80 countries. We have 15 R&D centers. And what we do is we create paint and coating solutions. So we cover anything from Tower Bridge of London to the windmills you see out across the fields to many of the big tank ships that you see across the globe. But we also do fancy paint. So you will also see us in Architectural Digest or in collaborations with hotels like W in Dubai and Sydney and so forth. So that is my real day job. Now, introduction to what I want to go through today is overall generative AI. It's a transformative force, but it also comes with responsibilities. And then I'm going to talk about how to operationalize responsible AI with Microsoft's trusted framework, responsible AI principles, and then give some practical examples, keeping an inventory of AI models and projects, some real-world examples, and aligning AI solutions with the EU Act, what is best practices, and then onto the shared responsibilities of the future. So overall, generative AI has been a technological revolution. We can generate pictures, text, code, music, videos, and sometimes it's indistinguishable from human creation. So it's quite a powerful tool. It unlocks a lot of productivity, creativity, and innovation, and it is applicable across various industries. I know so far I have used it both in the public sector, in advertising, in media, even in research, even in preventing fake news. And nowadays, I use it for chemical simulations, research into using this for the chemical industry. But we also do it for a lot of productivity enhancement in our everyday jobs. Now, but with all these possibilities also comes responsibilities, because great power demands great responsibility. So how do we treat this? So what kind of challenges and responsibilities actually come with generative AI? Well, so some of them that are critical challenges is to ensure responsible use of AI models. It's also to ensure compliance with regulatory standards, and there are quite a few today. And then it's focused on building, of course, still impactful Gen AI applications. And then for us in Europe, now you're in Vancouver, Monson, but for us in Europe, it's especially compliance with the EU AI Act. And that's because it has a great impact on business. And it integrates directly into businesses. So there is this transition from having in the past mostly been using AI maybe in research labs to now it having a huge impact on innovation, creation, and even operations. It can help us design new products. It can automate customer interactions. It can help us also with actually giving us feedback on whether or not we're living up to legal requirements. But we do have to have some ethical considerations, and we have to align with ethical standards and, of course, prioritize fairness, transparency, and safety. So EU Act and compliance. First, I just want to share one good slide that I took a picture of at Ignite, because we're going to focus today on the EU AI Act, but there are so many frameworks out there to comply with. And EU AI Act is just one, but there is also the Digital India Act. There is South Korea's AI Act. There is a framework coming out in China. Australia has their AI action plan. In the US, we're seeing NIST AI risk management framework. And even in Canada, the Artificial Intelligence and Data Act. And I can't pronounce it correctly, but there is a similar act in Brazil. So many different frameworks to align to if you're a global company like the one I work for. But let's first understand the importance of the EU Act. So the idea is, of course, that it wants us to have regulatory compliance. And the point is to maintain trust with users, customers, and society. But there are then also a practical interpretation of the regulations and how to apply this to generative AI solutions. So a very short overview of the most important part of the EU AI Act. It has a classification system of AI systems, and AI systems are categorized by their risk level. There are some prohibited practices, so certain AI practices are completely banned. There is something that's called high risk, and then we're going to what's constituting the high risk AI. And then we have some stringent requirements, possibly imposes strict regulations on AI systems impacting on human lives. So if we look at the 4 types of risks in the EU AI Act, on the top one, we have the prohibited or unacceptable. This is where we have systems that are manipulating people. This is also social scoring or biometrics in public spaces. And then we have the next level also where you have to do a conformity assessment that's called high risk. This is when AI is used in education, employment, immigration, but also in legal or law practices. And then we have the next one called limited. This is the one where most companies' AI fall under. And here the main requirement is transparency. This is when we're working with chatbots, RAG chats, emotion recognition, but also deepfakes can fall under this. And here it's very important that we're transparent on the way we work, that we can give complete reporting on how the system works, how it came to the decision it came to, and also that we are letting people know that they're interacting with an AI system. And then we have the last code of conduct that is minimal. This can be spam filters, it can be video games. And in that instance, the most important is that we have a code of conduct. So today, I and my company are working on developing our AI policy, which is what we need as the minimum. So I hope that gives you a good overview. If we then look deeper into the EU AI Act, we will find that it aligns very well with Microsoft's responsible AI framework. And in their framework, they have actually created a structured approach to how to create trustworthy and compliant AI. The main principles we'll see in a moment, but is fairness, transparency, and accountability. And what Microsoft has done to a great extent than ever before is that they've translated these principles into actions. Now, we have seen a lot of the news. I've been lucky to be at Ignite and see many of these principles really being translated into actions. I can share a bit of it, but not all. But I know all of these news and blog posts will be coming out in the coming weeks if it isn't already out there. But there are both tools and guidelines. They have created a lot of learning paths to translate the principles into actions. So highly recommend also going in and looking at that. They have had a focus on alignment with EU AI Act. Now, there are already many good tools provided, but I think within the next 1 to 2 weeks, we'll see tools that are even further tailored to aligning directly with the EU AI Act. And then I'll try to show a few practical examples of what can this look like when you're keeping an inventory of your AI models and projects and you have reports to do your auditing. But Microsoft's responsible AI principles consist of these 6 items. So on the top, we have fairness. AI systems should treat all people fairly. Makes perfect sense. The next one is reliability and safety. AI systems should perform reliably and safely. Then we have privacy and security. AI systems should be secure and respect privacy. And here, I think that everybody have wanted to work this way all along, but now with the newest tools from Microsoft, we're getting close to this being fairly easy to do. And then we have inclusiveness. AI systems should empower everyone and engage people. And here, the model catalogs and also all the evaluation possibilities in AI Studio, now AI Foundry, is really making it easy to see if your AI system is inclusive. And then we have transparency. AI systems should be understandable. And here, being able to give these full audit reports on our models, on our entire systems, even being able to see them in Microsoft Defender and PureView is making this easier. And then lastly, accountability. So people should be accountable for AI system, and this is where we always want to keep a human in the loop and somebody who is responsible for each of our AI systems. We do this by making sure each of our team members are receiving updates on how is our AI systems doing, but there are multiple ways of doing this. So, fairness, reliability and safety, security and privacy, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. That is the main focus, and it aligns very well with what they're aiming to achieve with the EU AI Act. So, in order to actually make this possible for people, Microsoft's had an approach to AI governance at scale. So when it comes to fairness, reliability, and safety, they have corporate standard. They have goals, they have requirements, and they have practices. And you also do see that in many of the tools they're implementing. But when it then comes to privacy and security and inclusiveness, they have goals of making this easy to implement. They have created trainings. Here again, if you go and you just search for Microsoft Learning Path Responsible AI or Trustworthy AI, you'll find that there are just now released many new training paths that takes you through how to implement this. Then there is the tools. Now in the tool stack before, and I will be referring to this, we had AI Studio, we had machine learning service, and now we see that the best of those two have come together into AI Foundry. And on top of that, we have a much better integration and connection to PureView to get an overview over what data we're using, the sensitivity, who has access, and Microsoft Defender on the other side, really seeing if there is any incident and connecting this to the overall overview of security in the company. And then there is the testing, where now in AI Foundry, we have a possibility of on each of our AI systems or projects to run a very large extensive amount of testing and actually see these reports before we click off that it's now production ready. I wish I could show you this. I've seen it this week, but I'm sure they'll come out much more, both training videos and learning path on this too. But so even on testing, there is great implementation tools to be found in AI Foundry. And then we have the oversight. Now in AI Foundry, we both get monitoring of the models that we have already in production. We get the reporting. So before, I'll show you some of the reporting, but now you also get complete reporting that fits with the different, or very soon, that fits with the different AI regulations. So you can have reporting on responsible AI. You can also get reporting on your safety and your risk. You can get all of your standard evaluations, of course, on groundedness, relevancy, coherence, and so forth. Auditing is also becoming easy because you can also get these full oversight and reports both in AI Foundry, but also in PureView. And that makes it easier to show that you are being compliant. You have the possibility also of enforcing overall policies and seeing in all of these tools whether or not you are being compliant. So in Microsoft, they have responsible AI innovation. I think, if anything, in Ignite, we've really seen this come across clearly. So they both do research and cutting edge research and thought leadership. They have their policy, and they also come with recommendations for companies on how to create their AI policies, governance, and enablement. And then we have the engineering, where they, of course, have best of breed engineering tools. So I talked about the responsible AI dashboards. First, we had the possibility of using the responsible AI dashboard in Azure Machine Learning Service. Then it became part of the AI Studio. This example is shown from AI Studio. And I can only say now that those two have merged together, or components have been used to create AI Foundry, this has been even more extensive. And that is currently in preview. And soon enough, I will be able to also show that in presentations. So many new capabilities have come. Now I couldn't get the slide decks from Ignite, so I thought, okay, I'll just show you a few pictures of some of the possibilities that have now come. And here what we see is that we have risk and safety evaluations. I'll show them in a moment in Azure AI Foundry. There's also full network isolation and private endpoint support. And then you have confidential inferencing for models, including Whisper, and built-in policies to have like an allow list for model deployment so that you can pick what kind of models are allowed and what is allowed. There's also model scanning and attestations in Azure AI Model Catalog, which is now part of Azure AI Foundry. So that is just a few of the things that's been included. Then we have the AI security posture management in Defender for Cloud. I sort of already mentioned it a bit, where you can even have multi-cloud AI security. So it expands into models that you might be having in AWS or somewhere else. And you also get the AI grounding data insights. This is what it can look like in Microsoft Defender. So here you can see a nice dashboard with the security posture, the regulatory compliance. Are you living up to what is required or not? Whether this is for EU AI Act or GDPR or so forth. You can also see an inventory, and there is an insights over the workloads that are protected. So many new capabilities and really good integrations between the work that we might be doing in the AI tools like now AI Foundry, and then what we're doing in our security tools like Microsoft Defender. Then I mentioned already, AI Studio has become Azure AI Foundry, and in there is now something called Management Center, which is a centralized way of having management both over all of your projects, but also your different AI models. And that gives you good observability and efficient collaboration, and also enhanced security and compliance. So why do we need all of this? Well, of course, we need all this to secure our GenAI workloads, because we have so many possibilities of using it, but there are also many threats. There can be the application. Maybe we didn't assign the right identity. We can see that now in Defender. We can see it in PureView. Did we ensure that our endpoints were private so that nobody could interfere with any of the traffic? Did we make sure that the network was set up well? I know this has been something I've struggled with this year, and it's become easier now. Are we ensuring that there's no sensitive data, or that we're treating the sensitive data correctly in our solutions? All of this comes with working in the cloud with our AI. Then there is also new attack vectors. So, there can be issues with the training data. There can be we can be using models now. In Model Catalog, you have a whole little overview for each of the models showing you whether or not there are biases or any issues. I'll show you in a bit how you have the model performance and model overview. You have issues you can have with your prompts. Now you can do a lot of evaluations on this, but some of the GenAI new and amplified risk is that you can have indirect prompt injection. Now there was already in OpenAI Studio some security measures against indirect prompt injection and prompt injection, as well as jailbreak, but this is now implemented fully as standard into AI Foundry, so that makes it something you don't have to worry as much about. Then there was also the possibility now of seeing if there's any data leakage or any model vulnerability. So we get a lot of new security layers in AI Foundry. But how does this then align back to EU AI Act and their requirements? Well, in EU AI Act, they have a focus on fairness. So they want to make sure that they eliminate biases that could harm users. Examples could be that maybe you don't get a loan approved in a bank and you can't get an explanation for why. And maybe the model wasn't completely fair. Maybe there were some biases as to where you live or your background and so forth. And with the EU AI Act, they want to eliminate these kind of problems. Then there is the emphasis on transparency, again, being able to explain how decisions are made. So imagine again the bank loan example. Let's say you didn't get the loan, then you definitely want to have a clear explanation of why, what factors was deciding in that. And then they want a commitment to accountability, so ensuring human oversight. They don't want that you don't get a loan and no human has been in the loop and can explain what's been going on. So always somebody has to take responsibility, and therefore we have to have a human oversight. Then again, into alignment, then particularly high-risk AI scenarios. I saw a lot at Microsoft Ignite that had to do with healthcare, where you're trying to help both patients, doctors, and nurses, perhaps through having GenAI translate what is being said or say it in a simpler way. These are scenarios also within EU AI Act where you have high risk, and so you really need careful scrutiny and control. And it becomes easier to get all of those insights, that's transparency and being able to see the reports and do the auditing with many of the tools that are now available in AI Foundry. So a practical example is that if you keep this inventory of AI models and projects, then it's easier to do the reporting, to have the insights, and then to do the compliance as well as having a human in the loop that keeps this. In the past, we were having our AI inventory in machine learning service. Now we're moving over to having it in AI Foundry, and that makes life easier for us. So just an example of what could this look like. This is an example of what an overview of our different models could look like, and then having different metrics, error analysis, causal insights. It could be counterfactual. It can be showing what is the training data says, test data says, what's the status, where are we at. And this is just becoming even more expansive and detailed and comprehensive with the new AI Foundry. We also have the possibility of getting model benchmarking. So that offers us a comprehensive comparison view for benchmarking metrics of foundation models in the model catalog. Instead of us having to develop all the models from scratch, we can use the models that is in model catalog, whether from OpenAI, Microsoft, Meta, or on Anthropic, but it could also be from NVIDIA. And then we get this very clear overview with evaluation metrics, and that allows us as users to self-educate and make good decisions when it comes to sustainability of the models, but also the data set that they have been trained on prior, and if there could be any biases in that. So here's another example of what it looks like, also looking at what is the model accuracy. So here you present a data set to the model, and you see how it's doing over time on its accuracy. Now, once you have selected your model, you have to apply some model optimization strategies. And there are different roads that you can choose. So if you're looking to improve here on the left side, context optimization, so what the model needs to know, you can start with prompt engineering. Now, in the past, we would be doing our prompt engineering in OpenAI Studio, but now we would be doing it in AI Foundry. And the good news is that AI Foundry has provided us with many new possibilities and even more of doing good prompt engineering. But if that wasn't enough, we might want to go up and do retrieval augmented generation, so RAG chats. This is where we want to use a search index. This can come from AI search, and we want to pull in specific documents to make sure that our model or AI system understands the full context we're working in. For us, this can be the context of chemical systems and paint products, but it could just as well be for, let's take the loan application example again, it could be all the documents, all the kind of information that is needed and required for a bank loan, and that you need to refer back to if you need to explain the decision making of the process. That could be what you were doing. Then on the other side, for model optimization, we can teach the model how to act. Now, on Ignite, there was a lot of examples of companies that were specialized in just fine-tuning financial models so that they understand the terminology and concepts that are very specific to the financial industry. But the downside of fine-tuning is that you might be teaching specific words or context understanding for a specific industry, but afterwards showing transparency can be a bit harder. Sometimes you instead want to combine these strategies, but you do need to do more reporting and act even more responsibly when you go into doing fine-tuning. So just very shortly, pros and cons, fine-tuning versus RAG chat. So adaptability to dynamic information. Here, RAG is really good because it adapts well with access to the latest information, where fine-tuning may require updates to stay relevant. So you will have to continually do fine-tuning. Then, and of course, there's a cost also associated to that. Then there is the customization and linguistic style. This can be limited for our RAG because it's based on the retrieved data and we only have a limited amount of pre-prompting that we can do, whereas fine-tuning can give a high degree of personalization. Then there is the data efficiency and requirements, where RAG is really efficient in leveraging external data sets. Less labeled data is needed, and it still works really well. Fine-tuning does require substantial task-specific training data. To give an example, the minimum is that you need at least 100 question and answers in a CSV file to start your fine-tuning. And if it needs to be really good, you actually need 1,000 question and answers. Then when it comes to efficiency and scalability, the cost-effective and scalable, it's cost-efficient and scalable with external data when we're working with RAG, where fine-tuning is a higher resource investment, both when you begin, but also when you need to do the updates. Then we have domain-specific performance, where we see RAG having a broad topical coverage. So I can have my RAG architecture and code, and then I can roll it out to many different parts of the companies. We do this with our ESG RAG chatbot that then has ESG data. We have one that is now being developed for our people and culture, completely different data, but same core code. And the same way we have one for our R&D and very technical employees. So quite broad and topical coverage. Fine-tuning can also be used in all of these different parts of the company, and it also can give deep, precise domain expertise, but you do remove some of the transparency. So you have to consider very carefully when it's worthwhile. So managing AI inventory and risk. Now, I've already mentioned it has become easier with the newest updates from Microsoft. But what is important to know is that you have to maintain an up-to-date inventory of your AI models and projects. So somewhere you need a central repository for training your AI systems. That includes the development, deployment, and lifecycle management. Now, before we would be using machine learning service, now AI Foundry is the obvious place to look to. But as you saw, even Defender, Microsoft Defender, can help you track AI systems across different clouds. Now, then also before you even start your project, you need to assess the risk levels. And you need to document each AI model's intended use and potential impact. This needs to be done with an assessment that classifies it according to the AI. Then we have to ensure accountability. So you have to define an accountable owner for each of the AI projects. You have to have the focus on compliance and ethical consideration. So a close collaboration with your compliance team, if you have it, your ethical team, also with your security team. And then you have to be able to facilitate audits and have your transparency. So with your comprehensive inventory, that actually aids internal and external audits. So your audit team will be very happy when they see all of the reports that you could provide them in the past with AI Studio, but even better now with AI Foundry. This ensures compliance with regulatory and ethical guidelines. And as we saw, we also get an overview now in Microsoft Defender and to some extent in peer review, where we can see whether or not we get the thumbs up on being compliant. Now, once you start a project, you actually need to do the risk assessment early on. So as soon as I've agreed with part of the company that we're going to do a project and it has been approved by our project board, the first thing I start doing is the early risk assessments. And that is crucial for building compliance into the AI project. And I would recommend everybody to do it at the start of development. In case you're having high-risk AI solutions, it's really important because you need to understand what additional precautions you need to take when you work with systems that might be classified as high risk by the EU AI Act. So how do you assess the different risk levels? Well, you document the AI models that you're working with. The big advantage of taking the models from the model catalog is that they come with this comprehensive report on what have they been trained on, how are they performing, and evaluations and all the most important metrics. That's a lot easier than if you were going to go out and just pick a model randomly on, let's say, GitHub. Instead, now that you have access to all of these models, even from Hugging Face, you get a documentation from the beginning, also including the intended use, and you can identify potential impact. So that's quite helpful. Then we classify the AI system following, for us, the EU AI Act guidelines to determine risk levels. We evaluate the risk factors to identify if there is any, for example, sensitive data involvement. This can sometimes come as a surprise, and you might want to modify your architecture if this is the case. And then you need to have proactive risk management, so address the issues early. Let's say that you do find that there is some of the data that is sensitive, then you have to consider how do you restrict the access? How do you ensure that people that interact with the system are not getting access to more data or information than they already have, and that you keep the accesses up to date? Also, to prevent any future complications. This can be done by reusing security groups from Asia. So let's say the data had come from one specific team in Teams or a SharePoint site. Well, if you use the same security group that is used to give access to this team or SharePoint site, then you are actually ensuring that you all the time give the same access levels. So that's one way of doing it. Then we have to ensure the accountability. And here we have the importance of maintaining the inventory, as I already discussed, and giving an owner to each of the AI projects that is accountable for compliance and the ethical considerations. This also helps us having human oversight as a practice and putting a face to the system. So there will always be a human oversight that is actually practiced because we know who is responsible for each of our AI projects. Now, in the past, as I mentioned, some of the tools could be Asian Machine Learning Service. Now, after Ignite, I would recommend using AI Foundry. But AI Foundry also helps create and manage an AI inventory. It also tracks the model versions, the data sets, and the metrics, and it also ensures transparency to an even greater degree throughout the AI lifecycle. But Microsoft have actually already ensured that all of these best practices were in place for their own tools. So a good real-world example is Microsoft Copilot. So let's just have a look at that. And then, of course, lastly, the importance of the comprehensive inventory is to provide a clear documentation trail, facilitate internal and external audits, and to, in the end of the day, ensure compliance, make it easy to prove regulatory compliance, which helps answer auditors' queries effectively and fast. Now, I mentioned all of these updates, and I just wanted to bring one slide on what updates have become. So to prevent data oversharing and detect any insider risk in Microsoft 365 Copilot, there is data security posture and management for AI, which is general availability. Then there is data oversharing assessment. This is private preview. Then there is actually data loss prevention for Microsoft 365 Copilot, but that's in private preview. Then there is a PureView integration with ChatGPT Enterprise Compliance API, although that's also private preview. Then risky AI usage in the insider risk management, also private preview. And then we have the prompt injection and protected materials detection in communications compliance, which is private preview, although prompt injection protection is already in AI Foundry. When it then comes to having secure and govern our custom AI built, this could be in Copilot Studio, but it could also be Azure AI or now Azure AI Foundry. Then there is a DSPM for agent built in Copilot Studio. There is also data compliance controls for agents built in Copilot Studio, both of them private preview. Then there is AI security posture management in Defender for Cloud. I showed you some of this from a picture before. Then we have the model governance policies in Azure AI or Azure AI Foundry. And we have the management center now in Azure AI Foundry, all of it being private preview. So unfortunately, I can only show you a few pictures from Ignite, but not all of it. And then they are preparing for AI regulations. So they are preparing AI compliance assessments for EU AI Act, NIST AI, ISO 42001, which is a very good ISO standard to adhere to when you want to make sure that you're building all of your AI governance in the best possible way. And when it comes also to ensuring the risk of it, the ISO 2300894 is also a absolute go-to standard. If you use these two standards for your governance framework in your company and your AI policy, you are pretty sure to be on the straight and narrow. I highly recommend them. And you will be able to see in PureView's Compliance Manager within a very short period. Here it says that it's already general availability, but they'll be coming even more for getting this overview. And then we have the AI reports in Azure AI, which is private preview, and I can only show you some of the early examples. Good. So very fast Microsoft Copilot. I'm sure you all know of it. It can help you generate meeting summaries in Teams, catch up on your work, draft emails in Outlook, give you a summary of long email drafts, write different kind of documents in Word, even based on other documents, help you create PowerPoints, do a lot of insights with data in Excel, even with automated Python scripts now. So many possibilities. But the point here was to show you the way that they have ensured the security for Microsoft 365. So here, when you are sending a user prompt in, it first is sent to Copilot. Then the Copilot does go to Microsoft Graph to assess where to pull the right information, whether it's web or other services for grounding. And then it sends the modified prompt to a large language model, so one of the big OpenAI models. And it also checks, of course, and once it receives the LLM response, Copilot accesses, again, Microsoft Graph for compliance and PureView to check what should you have access to. So should you have this information, these documents returned? And of course, you'll only have them returned if it was something you already had access to. And then it sends the response back to the user. So here you see how it is already built in. In addition to that, there is a robust, secure, and compliant hosting platform around all of the standard Microsoft Copilot M365. So you have, for security, data encryption, both at rest and in transit. You have data loss prevention. We've got identity management, so your user will only see what you already have access to, and your whatever output you get from M365 is always bound to your identity. And for compliance, we have data privacy, There is also possibilities for government hosting, and it lives up to all of the compliance standards that's been mentioned so far. And when it comes to the government, it has a unified administration. There's also API automations and integration with DevOps. You got usage analytics, there's activity logs, and center of excellence best practices. So this is an example of how they have ensured compliance leadership with standards including SOC 2, ISO 27001, RAMP, and EU model clauses. So this is what it can look like when all of this is enforced into an AI system. If we looked over at Azure AI, it has a robust set of tools. It has responsible AI dashboards. It's meeting the, and certainly now, EU AI Act requirements, especially now that we have Azure AI Foundry. And it's designed to have compliance in the development process, creating more innovative and reliable systems. So, with Azure AI or Azure AI Foundry, depending on what tab you'll be opening, you'll be seeing different names currently. You have access to thousands of LLMs from the data catalog, both from OpenAI, Meta, Hugging Face, and so forth. You can do data grounding with RAG. You have prompt engineering and lots of evaluations. You've got built-in safety and responsible AI and continuous monitoring for large language models. So here's the name AI Studio. You'll see that it'll be changing to AI Foundry, but it is one place to build and deploy solutions. There is the comprehensive model catalog. There is now a very strong production-ready lifecycle, and then there is all the dashboards and evaluations and metrics for responsible AI. Now, within Azure AI Studio, now Foundry, you can explore, compare, evaluate, improve, integrate, test, and review, and deploy and monitoring. So you have one unified platform with end-to-end AI journey for AI developers. This both gives us access to multimodal AI tools. There can be code-centric, there can be developer experiences, and all of these can be given different kinds of roles with just the rights that they need. So not too much, not too little, making it easier to manage the role-based access security. Then there is data integration, grounding models using your own data. This can also be done from Microsoft Fabric. Then there is the possibility of using hybrid and semantic search and full development lifecycle with model catalog, prompt flow, LLM ops. And then safe and responsible AI, where we already can see and have the content classification, model monitoring, jailbreak risk detection, and the protection against prompt injection. So many of the pre-built experiences are already here, whether capabilities are here, whether it's speech, vision, language translation, search, and so forth. We have the possibility of doing the orchestration. We can pick out models that are pre-built from the model catalog. We can work with prompt flow, LangChain, do experiments, have lots of evaluations already built in. So this here it says 1,400 models. I saw the latest number on Ignite was now 1,800 models. So this gives us access to open source models ready to be curated and fine-tuned, but we can compare them by task, and we also get a large amount of evaluation metrics and a report on what have they been trained on, so we have that transparency. I think we've covered this already. Mentioned it before, we have the model benchmarking, giving us this good overview of what model should we be used for what project. And then for managing, we have now more than ever in AI Foundry built in that we have the business needs where we can first try prompts, do a hypothesis, try to find the right LLM, then figure out if we're ready for an advanced project, and then start maybe doing RAG or prompt engineering or fine-tuning. And then maybe we prepare for app deployments, looking into quota and cost monitoring, having monitoring. We can even now in AI Foundry be looking through all of the test reports and ensuring that we are ready to go into production stamp the project as being ready for production. And we can then ensure that we also have content filtering and a safe rollout and staging. So very good LLM ops now in AI Foundry. This also makes sure that we have in place all the mitigation layers for responsible AI, both the user experience, where according to EU AI Act, we have to let the user know that they are interacting with an AI system. We have the meta prompt and grounding, where we can now make sure to have jailbreak layers and different prompt injection security layers in there, so there won't be any problems. We have also the safety system of knowing exactly what kind of model we're working with. We've seen all the possibilities from PureView to AI Foundry to Defender, and we get all the insights into the model. So there is correction capability, which is a content safety that ensures the groundedness detection feature and helps to fix any hallucination issue in real time before using even see it. Then we have embedded content safety, which allows customers to embed Azure AI content safety on devices. And this is important for on-device scenarios where maybe cloud connectivity is intermittent or unavailable. And then we have new evaluations. I'm just mentioning what was there before Ignite, but even more has come. But in Azure AI Studio, now Foundry, you can help to assess the quality and relevancy of the output and how often their AI application outputs any protected material. And then there is, of course, protected material detection for code. So let's say that it's outputting the lyrics of a Taylor Swift song, which of course is protected material, and it shouldn't be doing that. You will be alerted and you have the option to get that stopped. Good. So as I mentioned, risk and safety evaluation also for indirect prompt injections attacks. So if you try to do it, you will get an error message straight away. Risk and safety evaluation for protected materials, new quality evaluations, they're now preview. And also we can have synthetic data generator and simulator. And then additionally, there is the correction for safety groundedness. There is embedded content safety and the protected material. So this is what it looked like before Ignite. And if you get to have the private preview, you'll see that actually now there are even more metrics than just here where we see sexual content, violence, self-harm, and so forth. That has been expanded even further beyond protected materials and the others mentioned. Good. Then there is the correction of capability that helps revise ungrounded content or hallucination. So once you have your project and your model, you can run a test and it will see if any ungrounded material has been found much better than we could as human beings. And once it's detected it, you can actually straight away go in and give you a reasoning behind it and also improve on it. So that's quite useful. So this is the latest I can show you for the implement built-in safety system for now AI Foundry. So as you can see, also content safety, detect, block risky text and images now, including direct and indirect attacks. You can also call it as an API to protect any kind of model. And then it's configurable as built-in safety system for also Asian OpenAI models and any of the other mascot models. Then there's prompt flow, which is another way to do your evaluations and have easy versioning, controlling, and CI/CD integrations for your whole LLM ops with a code-first experience. Model catalog, we've already covered. So this is the way that we're building the compliance into our AI project. We do we have the risk assessment early. We use all the compliance tool, even Microsoft PureView Compliance Manager for automated assessments, Azure Policy to identify potential compliance gaps, and as you've seen, Microsoft Defender can also give you an overview now. So this is the way to build compliance into AI projects, with the importance of having the early considerations and focus on high-risk AI solutions and utilize tools for fairness and transparency. There are also interpret ML and fair ML that you can use, but I think you'll be covered pretty well with everything that's now in AI Foundry. But it's not just something an AI team can do, it's actually an interdisciplinary task force you need, and I see this as my daily work. So my world, when it comes to doing AI projects, involves legal, compliance, ethical, but also human aspects, and all of these have to be combined to ensure that we have a comprehensive evaluation. It means that we are people from legal, compliance, security, audit, business, and ethical experts that have to go together before we agree on AI policies, governance, and also projects. And this then helps us have successful projects, because you need all these perspectives in order to have a fully successful project. Only with all the different perspectives can we build better solutions. Now, using responsible AI tools, such as responsible AI as a toolkit, it's not just a philosophy, but you can see it's actually really becoming actionable tools that is easy to implement, that really promotes fairness and transparency. Also, with not just Azure Machine Learning, but now AI Foundry, we have all of the features that we need when it comes to evaluating the models, our AI systems. There are also fairness features, and we can ensure that biases are addressed before deployment. Then we have the documentation and transparency, which is a necessity. We have to have proper documentation. And as you can see, by the use of AI Foundry, the use of PureView and Microsoft Defender, having that is fairly easy. Then ensuring the readily available documentation. Well, in all these tools, as I mentioned, that is now available. So how do we utilize them? Well, as I mentioned, Microsoft PureView Compliance Manager helps automate the compliance assessments. It also identifies any potential gaps, and with help from Microsoft Defender, this can become even better. The Azure policy can assist in automating compliance processes, and it can work in conjunction with PureView Compliance Manager, and as I mentioned now, also Microsoft Defender. So that leads us on with 3 minutes left to the future of generative AI, because it's quite promising. There are really huge potential for significant advancement, especially in my area where we're working with molecule simulations and GenAI for scientific research. The opportunities for innovation and growth are massive. But we have to work responsibly. This is quite important. And that means that we have to adhere to laws like EU AI Act and the rest of the map that I showed you earlier on. And then have the focus on maintaining trustworthiness. This benefits everyone. So when we're doing AI systems design, we have to have a human-centric approach. We have to ensure trust and value. We have to use compliance as an enabler and not a barrier to technology, because it enhances better technology and it safeguards the users. And then it's important to take the time for cross-coalition collaboration. We all learn from that, working closely with legal, compliance, and security, and ensuring, of course, that our AI systems are compliant. This is then our call to action to align to all of the responsible AI frameworks, understanding the emerging regulation, although we saw there was much on the map, and then in sessions like this, trying to share best practices with others and getting a focus on building AI that benefits everyone, ensuring that we have safety and responsibility in the front seat when we are building AI systems and applications. Any questions?
Yeah, we have some question in the chat. I will share with you. This is the first question.
Yes. So I think really if we give it somewhere between 2 weeks and 3 months with AI Foundry, it's become a lot easier for SMEs to go in and be compliant even with limited resources, because they get all this standard reporting built in. So they can go in, they can choose between 1,800 different models. They can pick one, they get a report with it. once they start doing changes, whether they're doing a rack chat, adding their own data and so forth, again, they get another report with auditing. They can see clearly in the reports when they're ready to go into production, and they keep having this monitoring. So I think this makes it easier and more attainable than what I've seen before. But of course, all of these features in AI Foundry, Pureview Defender has to go into GA. And I don't know if that's 2 weeks, 3 months, or 6 months, but that's the time horizon we're probably looking into.
Yeah, and again, the Martin asked this one.
Members' data come in which types? So in the past, we had these report only for text data, but now in private preview, is it already GA? We also have it for imagery. We're seeing it to some extent on sound and speech, for example, on the Whisper model, but not all models. So we're seeing that this is coming to work for all types of data, so all multimodal models. But text was first, imagery is coming, and then there is some possibilities when we look at speech and understanding sound.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good question. I don't even know how to answer that.
Mhm.
Well, that's because we've got different legal foundational frameworks around the world, and of course also very different governments who choose different directions. I do believe that some frameworks have aligned to each other, so you would probably find that there is some alignment and common not just phrasings but point of view when you look at the AI promise in the US, the one in the Australia, and then EU AI Act. But yeah, I think that's a legal question more than for an AI MVP. For industries like insurance, what are key risks we should prioritize when developing AI solutions to align with EU AI Act? Well, for you, it's very much transparency is number one. Of course, you don't want bias, you have to be fair, but being very transparent in why did you come out with the risk assessment, the pricing, all of this the way you did. On the plus side, your industry has all of your data readily available, which means that you can easily give these metrics. Yeah, does that answer your question well enough?
Yeah,
So I would say if you use AI Foundry, PureView, and Microsoft Defender, and you're doing rack chats and you try to stay away with fine tuning, with all of the data that you have access to, you're very well dressed for living up to the EU AI Act, even in the insurance industry.
yeah.
What are some lessons Microsoft has learned while aligning its AI solution with EU AI Act? And how can smaller companies apply it? That's a good question. I think while I was at Microsoft Ignite, a similar question came up to Sarah Wright, who is their overall head of, like, the leader of responsible AI. And I don't know if she mentioned all of the insights, but they of course mentioned working very closely with many corporations and having used their insights to be built in the new features in AI Foundry. And that had especially come from heavily regulated industry like healthcare, and also from the financial industries, where not being allowed to look at the patients, or if for banks and financial institutions, trading strategies data, but still having to be able to have this transparency had been one of the lessons they had really learned from. So that's what I remember top of mind as one of the answers from Ignite.
Yeah. And the last question is this one.
That depends. So when you set up your front end, whether it's a web app service or it's in container apps and so on, you can choose to enable chat history. Standard enablement of chat history, you can see who the user was. For our in our work, we have anonymized it, which means that each chat has a user ID or a number, but we cannot actually connect that to a specific email. We know that only people who were in the security group can log in and use the system, but in order to not do profiling of what questions each of the employees are doing, which would not align well or would be, it depends on how you interpret it, but it wouldn't be aligning well with EU AI Act. So we have removed that option. The option is there, standard, but we have chosen to anonymize all the chat history because the only reason we keep the chat history is for the monitoring and then doing the evaluations to improve the system, but not to actually monitor the users themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's enough. Thank you again, Emily, for answer all of the questions. I think there is no more questions. We can end of the this session. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Emily, again. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great Saturday and thank you for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.